Welcome to Chapter 1 of Digital Radiography provided by medical professionals. Upon completing this module, you will be able to identify components of various digital imaging systems, compare digital systems, discuss the imaging receptors that are used in digital imaging, discuss the image acquisition process for computed radiography or CR and digital radiography or DR. Discuss the construction and characteristics of the plate. Explain differences in direct and indirect capture DR systems. Explain the role of charge-coupled devices in digital imaging systems. Discuss factors affecting spatial resolution in digital imaging. Explain the process of image extraction and processing for computed radiography and digital radiography systems. And lastly, describe factors that affect digital image quality. In this series, we will cover computed radiography, or CR, including the subtopics of the imaging plate, the latent image formation, the plate reader, and the PSP plate cycle. The PSP, or imaging plate, is held in a cassette made of lightweight plastic or carbon fiber. The front and back are lined with felt-like material to prevent static buildup and dust collection. CR cassettes look like film screen cassettes, but unlike film screen cassettes, the CR cassette does not have to be light tight because the imaging plate is not sensitive to white light. The back panel is a sheet of lead foil or aluminum used to absorb X-rays that penetrate the plate. The purpose of the lead foil is to reduce the amount of backscatter radiation that strikes the plate. Each CR cassette has a memory chip installed in the back panel that records patient demographics. The imaging plate is a photostimulable phosphor plate, approximately 1 millimeter in thickness, and made up of several layers, similar to an intensifying screen. The protective layer is made up of a thin, clear layer of plastic to prevent or protect the phosphor and improve the signal-to-noise ratio. The phosphor, or active layer, contains the storage phosphors. The conductor layer reduces and conducts static electricity away from the plate and absorbs light to increase spatial resolution. The color layer may be present in newer plates, and it is used to absorb stimulating light and reflect emitted light. The light shield, or reflective layer, reflects light released during the reading phase. The support layer is made of a sturdy material that gives rigidity to the plate. And finally, the backing layer is a soft layer that protects the back of the plate. Layers may have alternative names depending on the source of information. The IP is coated with emulsion on one side. Therefore, the plate has to be loaded in the holder cassette facing up. Phosphors used in CR imaging plates are referred to as photostimulable storage phosphors. The phosphors must have the ability to absorb energy, store energy, and release the energy upon proper stimulation or excitation. Certain barium fluorohalide compounds exhibit these characteristics. Europium is a silvery rare earth metal used as an activator for the phosphor. Europium captures some of the energy of the remnant X-ray beam. It is responsible for the phosphor's ability to store energy. Phosphors used in digital imaging come in two forms. The phosphors pictured here are referred to as turbide phosphor crystals. These are randomly distributed within the active layer of the PSP. Typical phosphors of this type are barium fluorobromide, barium strontium fluoride bromide, gadolinium oxysulfide, and rubidium chloride. They are termed turbid due to their crystal structure, and this structure has some drawbacks. There is a decrease in spatial resolution with turbide phosphors because light emission is in all directions, causing more spreading of the lines making up the image, which increases the penumbra, or the unsharpness of the image. The second type of phosphor structure used in digital imaging is called needle-structured or columnar phosphors. These are grown in controlled settings to form a needle or columnar arrangement. As can be seen in this slide, these phosphors resemble needles standing on end. This structure results in less light diversion and therefore better spatial resolution. Cesium iodide is an example of this type of phosphor. During exposure of the IP, electrons within the phosphor crystals are moved from their normal energy level to a different energy level within the crystal. The steps of this process are as follows. X-ray photons that exit the patient following exposure hit the phosphor crystals, causing electrons to move from their normal orbital location to a higher energy level. Approximately 50% of these electrons become trapped in the conduction bond of the phosphor atom. Some of these higher energy electrons spontaneously return to their resting energy state by emitting energy in the form of light. Europium in the phosphor is responsible for capturing the electrons and causing them to be stored in the F centers or traps. The electrons that are not captured migrate back to the valence band. Following X-ray exposure, the remnant beam exits the patient and interacts with the electrons in the phosphor of the imaging plate. This results in energy transfer. This transfer of energy causes excitation of the electrons into a metastable state. Some of the electrons return to the ground state and emit a blue-violet light. The phosphor crystals develop defects called metastable sites, F centers or farbzentrum or color centers. These F centers are small electronic holes that trap or capture the electrons released from the phosphor atom. The latent image is formed by these electron holes or F centers. As previously stated, the trapped electrons comprise the latent image. The imaging plate must be inserted into the plate reader to release the electrons and process the latent image. A helium neon laser light scans the plate and releases the electrons that are trapped. These electrons emit light as they move back and forth to the valence band. The design of the plate reader varies by vendor, but they have the same components. The drive mechanism moves the plate through the scanning process. The optical system is made up of the laser, beam shaping optics, light collecting optics, and optical filters. The optical system is designed to protect and guide a precisely controlled laser beam back and forth across the plate. The photodetector is used to sense the light that is released from the plate during the scanning, and the analog to digital converter, or ADC, receives the light and converts it into an electrical signal. The cassette containing the imaging plate is inserted into the plate reader, and the imaging plate is removed by the drive mechanism. The drive mechanism slowly moves the plate through the reader. The helium neon laser, or solid-state diodes in some newer plate readers, is directed to the imaging plate while the plate is moving through. The laser scans the plate in a raster pattern, which means from left to right, stimulating the trapped electrons and freeing them from their F centers. As the plate moves, an oscillating mirror deflects the laser beam back and forth across the imaging plate. The laser scan then allows the electrons to return to a lower energy state referred to as photostimulated luminescence, the emission of blue-violet light. The intensity of the blue and light emission is in proportion to the amount of radiation absorbed by the imaging plate in any particular area of the imaging plate. The visible light given off by the imaging plate at this stage is emitted in all directions. It must be channeled then to a fiber optic collection assembly, which will direct the emitted light to one or more photodetectors, photomultiplier tube, or PMT, or the charge coupled device, or CCD array. Photodetectors convert the visible light into an electronic analog system. The analog system is sent to the analog to digital converter, or ADC, for conversion into a digital signal, or numerical, that can be read and used by the computer system to create the manifest image. Once the plate has been scanned and the image data sent to the ADC, the plate is erased by exposing it to intense white light. This forces the holes, or traps, to release any residual electrons. Following erasure, the IP is ready for use again. Overexposed plates may need to be erased more than once because they will retain some of the energy. CR imaging plates are more sensitive to background scatter and should be protected prior to use, and they should be erased if they have been stored for any length of time. Once used for a patient's exam, the plate should be scanned immediately or as soon as possible because it will begin to lose some of the energy that is stored, which is the image data. It is estimated that the plate will lose approximately 25% of the latent image in about 8 hours. Quantification or digitization refers to the process of converting the analog or electrical signal image into numerical data. During this process, a numerical value is assigned to each light photon. In this process, each phosphor storage center is scanned and the released electrons enter the analog to digital converter that divides the analog system into a matrix. And each pixel in the matrix is assigned a digital or numerical or brightness value that represents the light emitted in the amount from the surface of the imaging plate during scanning. Pixels that have received more exposure are assigned values that represent less brightness and will appear darker on the displayed image. Pixels that receive less exposure are assigned values that represent more brightness and will appear lighter on the display image. All brightness values together make up the raw or image data.
Thanks for watching. To purchase the full course and earn your CE credits, click on the link in the description or head on over to our website at www.medical-professionals.com. And while you're there, check out our All Access Pass, where you can get unlimited CE credits for your state and ARRT renewal for just $49.99. We also offer a host of free resources to make it easier than ever for radiologic technologists like you to achieve excellence. Check out our free Radiology CE webinars, clinical reference guides, and free CE courses on our website today. Be more than just certified. Choose medical professionals.